Good afternoon, that time again. Missed a couple of days. Obviously I'm trying to get 2 videos out a week, at the very least, sometimes 3. However, yeah, cracked another rib 2 days ago. Pretty painful. Life goes on. That's 5 ribs since November. Beat it. Still, today I'm going to chat about the SAS training with the Indonesian Special Forces. They're called the Kopassus. And the reason I picked the Kopassus Special Forces is because the first 3 letters, K-O-P. Guess who won the Premier Division already and reside in Liverpool, and they have a famous Kop end. So that's one of the reasons I picked this one for today. I had another one in mind. However, before I do that, just quickly go through the books, as I normally do. Go, 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 the definitive story of the Iran Embassy siege, out on Netflix, by the name of 6 Days. This is the inspiration for the book, and Jamie Bell plays me in the film. Also available on Audible. Come on to that one shortly. The other one, 15 Years in the Regiment. My time from when I was born through to 1992 when I left the SAS. The regiment, 15 years in the SAS. However, that is not quite ready on Audible, but apparently it shouldn't be too long. How long's a piece of string? I don't know. But I'll keep you in the picture. And behind me you see the print called The Resolution, myself in the centre with no gloves on, and surrounded by fellow colleagues of B Squadron, entering the Iranian Embassy May the 5th, 1980. That picture, which is now a print, was taken by police snipers. So there you go. My web address, where you can get all this stuff, www.rusty-firmin.org/shop. My YouTube channel, which this one is going on, is Rusty Firmin SAS TV. Keep an eye on what I'm doing, keep an eye on the videos, and we've got nearly we've got nearly 12,000 subscribers. If we can get some more, brilliant. Tell your mates, all welcome. Facebook page, SAS Special Air Service, Military Collectors and Fact page. Feel free to have a look at that. Request to join. You don't have to be military. You don't have to be ex-military. All you need to do is have a brain, enjoy yourself, but please don't be a Walt, because we do Walt hunting on there, and it's quite a favourite pastime for a lot of us. So we talk about the Indonesian Special Forces and the SAS. First time I'd ever worked with them. Out we went over to flew to Jakarta, but before that, yeah, guess what? Rusty and a few of the guys, we did the Malay language course, yet another course. When you compare it to Arabic and the learning of the Malayan language, you get some idea. If you can learn the words in Malay, you can almost speak the language. Whereas in Arabic, I can't remember, I think there's 7 tenses of a verbal. It is much, much more difficult. So, yes, a group of us were put on a course. Why Malay, you ask? Similar in parts to the Indonesian language. And of course we had Malay tutors, but we didn't actually have an Indonesian one. So that's how it worked out. Either way, time in a classroom, time spent learning, and this is what we did day to day in Hereford in my day. prior to going into different areas, some hospitable, some inhospitable. It didn't matter. So there's another language that I was beasted with. Good fun, hard work, and at the end of it you get something out of it. Why do we need it? Little did we know that once again when we got there, the Indonesians, Special Forces, wanted to try and speak English. So once again, it was a mismatch over the weeks we were there. A bit of this, a bit of that. And certainly when we were allowed out to go down to the local shops to pick up kit and anything, food, well, in our spare time, which there wasn't a lot of. But I was op sergeant on that particular trip. So, you know, once we got into it, it was quite easy. A number would go down, have a quiet beer somewhere, do your shopping and come back. So we got off the flight to Jakarta. It's supposed to be a secret exercise in those days. It was. And so we got there and everybody was going, what's all these Brits doing here? You know, there's something going on. It's the same old stuff, you know. In this occasion, we didn't need to speak to them. Okay? The Special Forces knew what we were there for. We knew what we were there for. That's all that mattered. And it was to get stuck into joint training in the jungles of Indonesia. Huge place, thousands of islands. But they had a great training area set up, as you would expect. They're building their camp, which was on, I think it was on the east side of Jakarta, and not far from Jakarta itself. We're going there to train, do our skills, and exactly what they were doing, but trying to do it together so they could learn from us. Not only that, I remember swapping some kit with, I think, two of the Indonesian Special Forces, and that was the sort of thing that went on. A bit of trust on each side, obviously, because, you know, you are a long way from home, I can tell you that. But they turned out to be excellent soldiers, and the story is that I think somewhere in the region, the highest sort of rainforest areas are something like 16,000 feet. It's quite high, and that's the story I'm going to come on to in a second. But what did we do? Well, first of all, a lot of the stuff, we let them show us how they did their stuff. We had a look at it, and in the same manner, we showed them how we did ours. And then we'd have a couple in our patrol, they'd have a couple, you know, and it was pretty friendly but tough training. And the things we covered, which I think became very useful to later on, was the range work we did. They build jungle lanes where you can go shooting, and you have somebody as an instructor taking you down these lanes. Pop-up targets appear through into the distance, not right in front of you, obviously. And the reason why into the distance is why? Well, too many people, when they walk in the woods, let's equate this to the UK, shall we say, they look at a tree, that's a nice tree, isn't it? Actually, when you're in the jungles, you do that, you might not end up too, you know, you might not end up too well. Because the idea is when you look at the vegetation, you're actually looking through it to see what's on the other side, if you can. You don't just stare at the tree in front, you look through it. And this is how the targets were positioned. Not in front of you. You had to keep the patrolling head going. You had to keep your head up while you were walking. And you had to look. Targets appear, you take the targets on, and you carry on. you'd have changeovers. The lead man would drop to the back. The next man would move up. It'd be his turn to lead the patrol. And it went on like that. And as I say, it worked well. And of course, the fun is, me, I can't tell a lie, it was destroying stuff. And that's what I did. Used to love it. But at the same time, it was great to learn, just in case you ever needed it. So it was two-way. So the jungle training, shooting-wise, was actually one of my favourites, along with the camp attacks, mock obviously, that are set up. You go and do a recce on them. You go back, you make a plan, and you go up. It could be to rescue hostages. It could be a number of things. And each one would depict which mission it would be. And the mission is already what you just want to achieve. The mission, whatever the mission is, you want to achieve it. And that was the name of the game. So that was the part of the training. We had jungle navigation, very difficult. Certainly in Belize, when I think back, very difficult to navigate. And people can say what they want. You have to experience it. Even over short distances, you can get lost very quickly. However, the jungle navigation, as I remember it, going back, wasn't really that much of a problem in Indonesia. A bit clearer, could see a bit further. Yes, lots of water, rainforests, but two different jungles already, which I'm covering. So it just gives you some idea of what we did. And of course, once you've got into it and you've done your attacks, then there's much more to do. And I hooked up I was actually, as I say, the op sergeant at the time. And I've got pictures of it. We decided that in the base camp, which we were working from each day and go back to at night, where we had the water bowsers, where we had food, no alcohol, unfortunately, no alcohol at all. And it's where we did all our preparation for the next day and stuff. So they came up with an idea. What about doing a snake demonstration? I don't mind snakes. There's not much I'm bothered about. I don't mind snakes. Rusty, you're the op sergeant. If you hang in with this guy, I can't remember his name, but he was more or less the equivalent, but he was the snake man. Okay, he knew the snakes inside out. He knew where to get them. He knew how to find them. And Rusty was going to be his apprentice. So the two of us, it's in my book, we mention it, a bit more detail. The two of us, the rest of B Squadron, were behind. They were just chilling in the camp. And I remember it being first thing in the morning. Yes, a bit of frost in the jungle. Can you believe that? But at that height, yes, moon country, as they call it. So we disappeared, me and him, to find these snakes. And I'm really intrigued. We've got 3 for those, the sandbags, you know, the sandbags, what they're made of. 3 bags, Hessian type things. And we were to get out, pick up the snakes, put them in the bag, and take them back to camp. Now, that is not a lie, that is the truth. There's all different types of snakes. I can't even pretend to know what the snakes were. He knew everything. And mutterings, and I'm going, yeah, okay. And I'm looking at these bags that are moving around. But, quite safe, if he's going to pick them up, I'm going to pick them up as well. It's not a problem. They can't get out. But the reason they're like almost like docile, if you like, at that time of the morning in the cold, is because they're cold-blooded. They're cold-blooded, aren't they, the snakes? Reptiles, cold-blooded. So that when they're that cold, and I was talking about frost, and it took a little while for that frost to go, then you pick the snakes up because they have to lay there. I always remember, they have to lay there until their body starts to warm up. Well, it won't warm up until the sun comes out. And once the sun comes out, they're a bit more lively. So we went round and he showed us how to pick them up with very safe. And I mean, I'm so impressed. I've never seen this before. So I don't know, should we say 15 snakes? All different types. But the one I'll come on to, which, can't forget it, it's called a spitting cobra, for obvious reasons. This thing can spit venom somewhere about 3 to 4 feet, and it aims at eyes. If it gets you in the eye, it can affect it, and it can leave you totally blind. We had it in the bag of one of them. Unbeknown to me, I didn't know it was a spitting cobra until what I'm going to tell you. Yes, it's another story. But we went back to camp, we got the 3 bags, yeah, take them back. And then the squadron were roused up. I didn't have a clue what he was going to do. He nicknamed me Orang Ula. And for anybody who knows the Malay language, Orang Ula, Orang man, Ula snake. The other way around, snake man. That was it. I've got my handle. That is it for the trip. Orang Ula. Didn't bother me. I was learning something here which could be very useful at some stage in my life. Took them back to camp. Squadron on parade in what they stood up in, straight line. I've got a picture of it. Okay, in a straight line with the look, probably like mine. What's happening here? Well, I can tell you what they did. For the demo, the guy said, the guy obviously has to be cleared by our squadron commander and stuff, which wasn't a problem, otherwise they never sent us out in the first place. So we disappeared into the centre of the camp, the base camp, and opened the bags up. He did that. And they just let all the snakes go. All of them at one go. And the snakes were going up to the guys who were stood bolt still, upright. I think we're all frightened to move, I'll be honest. And these snakes did whatever they wanted. In and out the legs. Over there, some ran away. But in the main, they went through the crowd of bodies. And I'm talking about a squadron strength of maybe, on that particular trip, arguably in the jungle, maybe 40 to 50. Then they've got their guys. I don't know how many of them there were, probably roughly the same, I would think. And these snakes did what they wanted. The one thing they didn't do is bite anybody. However, let me go back to the spitting cobra. This thing had got itself inside, and for those who know what the water bowsers, the military ones, look like, not huge, but we've got guys stood on top of that. But the spitting cobra is somewhere just underneath. And of course, by the time the snake man, not me, by the time the snake man got there, I was with him, and had eyes like bulldogs' knackers. I can tell you that now. Eyes to die for. Marty Feldman, forget it. Actually, he got his hand on it, and he started pulling it, and the skin was shedding, and this thing was getting vicious. Finally pulled it out, let it go on the floor. It didn't go for anybody, but it did spit. And a lad beside me, Joe, well, not beside me, but one of the lads, he got it across his jacket. So no danger, no damage done. But this thing did exactly what it says on the can. It spat venom. So anyway, that one disappeared. None of them were hurt. Nobody went out there to hurt anybody. The snakes disappeared into the, you can imagine the camp, it's all bare because you don't want snakes in there and you can't see them, one of the reasons. However, on the outskirts of the camp, it's a bit longer grass and stuff, the snakes know what they're doing, off they go into the long grass, never to be seen again. So things like that were sort of fill-in in between shooting and cross-training in boats, rubber, where you can, and generally mixing and trying to speak to each other and at the same time have a good time. And the exploits of that snake will live with me forever. It's unbelievable, lovely. But the good news is none of the snakes got wasted. They all went back to the habitat. Yeah, suitably warmed up, I can tell you that, after the amount of time we had them. But the camp itself, you have to keep clean. So you've still got chores to do. And once we'd actually finished doing all the training, there was medical training, there was demolitions training. I haven't got time to go into everything because they're different. They're going to be different talks on their own. So you will find out. But you can imagine when you fly all that way that you're not wasting any time apart from the index. So we've done everything, packed all our kit up. Now it's back to Jakarta, where the piss up is planned as it normally is. And for those who don't know or do know, that there's a rum ration for every man in that squadron for every day they're out in the field. You can imagine how many bottles of rum. Okay, so we get those delivered. We've not had any drinks while we've been there. We've done our work. We've done everything we went there to do. Everybody, I think we got a couple of minor injuries. I think they got a couple of minor injuries. Nothing to write home about. Now this rum ration, when you look at it, you see the amount of bottles in the kitchen, which is in their main camp, East Jakarta. And you think, God, can we get through all that? Yeah. So there were certain guys in charge of making the punch. Fiji comes to mind. What punches they were made in the big 5-gallon containers, the big army green ones, one after another, after another, after another. However, they make the punches, and then everybody went off, had something to eat, come back, and it was time to start winding down a little bit after a number of weeks out there. We've been into town, some people have been into town, had a beer. We've got a couple of days left. So, yeah, the punch was taken care of, and there were some sorry sights, I have to say. But it was hair down time. Who cared? However, one of my fond memories are, the guys in the cookhouse, that the Indonesians, lovely set of people. Anybody tipped a glass of rum, a bottle of rum into a glass and said, that's it, empty, and you put it down, and you look at it in 20 minutes, 10 minutes time, 5 minutes time, there's a bit in the bottom like that, right? You can't get rid of it because it hangs on the inside and it drops down with, yeah. They took all the bottles, they don't drink. They're drinking out of all these little tiny bits, these little shots that are left. They're all over the place. But these are the local cooks and bottle washers and everybody who makes it work for you. Brilliant sight. So they got to enjoy a bit of it as well. And then we went into town the following day. I mean, the following morning, you can imagine. The following day, we went into town for a couple of beers. I give the guy the time to pick us up. We had a couple of hours there. Actually, he got the wrong time. Instead of picking us up, let's say 10 o'clock, I think he picked us up about midnight. But we ran out of money. We only went down there for a couple of beers. We went to a place called Top Gun. And it was an Aussie guy. We got playing pool and stuff. Me and John Mack and a few of the other lads playing pool. I had a few beers there, but we had no money left. Where were we going to get money from? Anyway, the Aussie guy who ran the place, he just said, you can have that. And then if you bring the money in, you come to a price or something. Bring the money in, maybe tomorrow. Just drop it off. We came to an agreement on a price. And he was a really good guy. We stayed there playing pool and stuff. And then when the vehicle finally turned up, it took us back to camp. So really that was the index of that. And of course, it's just giving you a flavour. Some of the other stuff that's in more depth will be separate videos, if you like. So that's the type of stuff. We've talked about Oman in the last one. This is now Indonesia. Well, I learned the Malay language to go and speak in Indonesia. Colloquial, that's all. So that was that.